Welcome back to the Successful Driver Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to us today. Excited to talk to someone within the Aero family. It's Carrie Shingleton, the F&I Manager at Aero Truck Sales in Philadelphia. Is that correct?
Yes. It always confuses everyone, though, because we're actually just over the bridge outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey.
Yeah, I always get thrown off because it's Maple Shade, New Jersey, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, not a lot of people have heard about Maple Shade, New Jersey, so Philly's easier to find us for some people around here.
No, I get it. Well, Carrie, I'm really excited to talk to you. Excited to talk to someone from our great F&I team here at Aero. Wanting to hear your perspective. It's always interesting to kind of get different backgrounds in this show, and that's just what I want to start with. Carrie, what's your background here in the trucking industry? How'd you get started? How long have you been in it? Just kind of give us your story about your time here in the trucking industry so far.
So I'm coming up on being here about 8 years. I accidentally wound up in the truck industry. I applied to a job posting. I used to do F&I work back in the day for car dealers, which is completely different than these commercial truck loans. I applied for a position here and I had no idea it was the trucking industry. And I didn't know anything about the trucking industry, and it has just opened up my eyes. When I see truckers on the road now, I think of wow, what these guys go through. Now that, I've been in it for a while, I'm just so grateful whenever I see them. And it's just, there's so much involved in the trucking industry. And before I came here, it would, you know what I mean? You're seeing a trucker on the road and you're like, okay, they're driving somewhere, but you're not thinking about all the behind the scenes work that goes into being a truck driver. So it definitely was eye-opening switching to this side from the car business for sure.
I kind of always, some people will equate purchasing a truck to a car. And I always kind of just say it's almost more like a mortgage than it is a car.
Yes, it's a lot more like a mortgage than a car for sure.
It's such a big decision. If your Buick breaks down, that's one thing. There's a problem with your house, it's another, and it's a little bit more drastic, right? So I kind of always just it's a big decision with a lot of little details baked into it, and your future success kind of banks and depends on the reliability of that truck. So I kind of always that's kind of how I always look at it. But Carrie, you've seen a lot of drivers come through Aero Philly in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
So we always ask people this question: what makes a successful driver?
Okay, wow, that's a big one. Well, I've never actually driven a truck. I can tell you about all the behind the scenes stuff that really goes into, hopefully becoming a successful driver. It's really looking at it like your business is basically on wheels. You don't have an office you're going to every day, but you're in that truck moving and grooving. So you really have to put a lot of thought into it. Even just starting out with equipment, you have to have a reliable truck. You need to think about protecting that truck because your truck is basically an investment in your business. If your truck goes down, you're not working, you're not making any money. So definitely thinking about protection for that truck, whether it be warranties, roadside, all sorts of stuff. Another big thing is budgeting. You can't just be having money come in, money go out, and not really think about where it's going. You might have your truck payment that is going to be consistent each week, but then you have other stuff going in that can fluctuate depending on how much you're driving, more diesel you're using, truck repairs, even little things like eating. That sounds like nothing, but when you're on the road and just throwing money at it, random things and not really thinking about it and not, having a system in place to track all your money, at the end of the day, you could be losing out if you're just not really thinking about it. A lot of the drivers that have some type of support system, whether it's a business partner, an accountant that's keeping them on track, a significant other at home that is like, what are you doing? And you know what I mean? Tracking everything coming in, coming out, just really kind of having some system in place to ensure that you are successful. Because if you're just kind of haphazardly doing things, next thing you know, you could be in some big trouble for sure.
Well, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. Do you have more? Sorry, I was cutting you off. If you got more, please continue.
Another one, really important is the hustlers. There's a lot of people out there promising the drivers things and then they don't deliver. So you need to be networking, figuring out, who's got the best loads, what they're paying. If you're doing the load boards, are they taking a percent of your money? Like you just really have to think things through and research them. Networking is amazing because then, if you talk to other people and get the truth, that way, people aren't just promising to get you to go deliver their goods and then not following through. So just between budgeting and researching and really looking into things instead of just jumping, full full stream ahead.
Carrie, that's one of the better answers I've got for that question. And it's really fascinating to hear the different angles and detail you provide. And it kind of sounds like you've seen firsthand those problems exist for some drivers. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and I get really upset when things happen to my customers because a lot of my customers, I keep in touch with them over the years. It's not like you bought a truck and you're done. I mean, people call me nonstop over the years. They come back to me for multiple trucks. I get to see them grow. I'm very invested personally in my customers, so I get really upset when they get burned.
Yeah, it sucks to hear some of the reasons that you've seen some issues there. Um, but I think probably overwhelmingly, there's a lot of driver success stories out there. What is your role in the driver story? How are you helping truck drivers find that success?
Well, after my guys find them the equipment they're looking for, I kind of have to have a lot of conversations with them because when the drivers come to me, they have had so many people from so many different angles tell them so much information and they're just lost, confused, overwhelmed, stressed, trying to figure all this out. Do they want a business? How do they open a business? There's people out there that promise, oh, you throw me $500, I'll open a business. It's kind of like, okay, you don't need to go that route. You need to watch out for yourself. This is how you start your business. This is, the insurance that you need. This is the financing that you need,
Mm.
kind of like the whole package. Obviously starting out with getting them financed and finding something they're comfortable with that fits their budget. And then just going through the whole steps, trying to figure out, they were talking to their accountant and LLC is best for them. Well, great, here's how you do it. Or, some people come in and they want to get their own MC, their own authority, and, be their own boss. And it's really kind of guiding them through that process and how they do that. And then another big whammy is the insurance. I mean, the amount of insurances you need, depending on your certain situation, is enough to make my head spin, let alone someone that's just like, you know what I mean, trying to figure it out. So it's kind of trying to help them find the right insurance for what they need in their situation, whether they're hauling for a company and they're providing them with their insurance. I try to make sure that they're not getting ripped off in any way about the insurance, and just trying to go through and help guide them to the finish line to get on the road, moving, which is the most important part. But it's kind of trying to. It sounds complicated, but I try to just like make it very smooth and help them get out there and keep their stress down.
For sure. I mean, I think you kind of outlined it really perfectly. You had a really long, detailed answer about driver success, and there's just so many different layers. A lot of what you kind of discussed here is the amount of layers that you get from your perspective in the trucking industry. And I think that's part of the reason we wanted to talk to you is because as an F&I manager, you're having conversations about all these different products that could potentially be part of a truck deal, and you kind of see all the ways that things have worked or not worked for particular customers. So it's a really unique perspective, which is why we wanted to talk to you. And so you've been in the truck industry for 8 years. It's not,
Yeah.
me too, by the way. I think we started around the same time. So that's great.
Probably.
Yeah. My question to you here now is, so the biggest change, you've been here 8 years. What's the biggest change you've noticed in the trucking industry over the last 8 years of your truck industry career?
I would say a lot technology wise, both in the trucks, both in the way we do business, even over the
Hmm.
last year. When they switched to the paper logs to the e-logs, and my poor customers had to figure it all out, um, it was a lot for them to take in.
Hmm.
I can't specifically speak to the truck end, but I just know that when the whole after treatment system came out, that wasn't
Yeah.
very fun.
Right.
And but everything across the board in every aspect of the industry is more and more, technology. I mean, over the last year, when the pandemic, first started, everyone had to change the way that they do everything. If people didn't jump on board, learn new technology, learn how to do new things, and find new ways to do every aspect, a lot of stuff would have stopped. So I feel like it's just evolving more than ever lately, definitely in the past year. The other thing is I've definitely seen a lot more women in the industry in all aspects, whether it's drivers, whether it's in haul sources,
Hmm.
recruitment, so that's been really refreshing to see as well.
No, for sure. We talked to Ellen Voy recently from Women in Trucking. Just
Oh,
kind of
okay. I'm
yeah.
part of Women in Trucking. I went to one of their conventions for Arrow a couple years ago when it was in Dallas, and it was overwhelming, remarkable. I met so many people in so many different levels in the trucking industry, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it does feel like we're starting to get a lot more diversity within the trucking industry, which is a really cool thing to see. Um,
Yes.
no, yeah, it's awesome. So you've spoken and you've worked with a lot of drivers. You stay in touch with a lot of drivers. It sounds like maybe how about you give us a success story for one of the drivers you've worked with? It can be recent, it can be in the past. Just you don't have to name names or anything, but just kind of give us an example of a truck driver success story that you've maybe been a part of or that you've heard recently.
Well, one of my first customers here, or at least I feel like it was one of my first, but it might have been a few years in. He lives locally, and he bought his first truck from us. And I helped him start his LLC. I helped him figure out New Jersey and all their crazy paperwork that's required to have your business. Helped him, navigate when it was time for him to step up and get his own authority and take control of everything. And in the past couple years, just watching him add and grow his fleet, and just give me a call occasionally to let me know how he's doing, or hey, this is amazing. I like everything's going so well, and I'm adding more drivers to my company, things like that. It's just been amazing, and he'll even just call, just let me know how he's doing, and it's kind of rewarding because he was one of my first people here that I've got to see grow over the years. And I'm starting to see more and more, but he was my first. So it's like extra special.
How gratifying is it to see, maybe an owner operator, maybe not a guy that's purchased, multiple trucks and has a small fleet going, but just one of those single drivers, seeing him come, maybe go from one truck to his next truck to his next truck at Arrow, having,
It's just
maybe
so amazing. And especially when they have families, and you just, they start having their kids and growing families, and you're just kind of part of this whole thing that they're building. And it's just really, really great. And they're excited and happy, and they're happy to get out there, and they're working for themselves and killing it. It's amazing for sure.
So I want to ask this one too. We just kind of talked about some success stories that you've been part of. Maybe maybe a horror story you've witnessed in the last little while. Is there a story that comes to mind for you where things really didn't go right for somebody?
It always breaks my heart when that
I
happens.
know.
It doesn't happen often, but unfortunately, you'll get someone that, they came in with a good heart, and they thought they could just jump right in and go all out with their own authority and all the expenses that go with that. And then when you see them fail because they didn't plan, they didn't that whole budget nonsense I rambled on for before, they didn't take to heart things that I said and how they really need to think things through, and they just jumped all in thinking that they kind of knew it all because they have friends that told them stories and they just thought I can just go do this. I don't need to think about it. And then they fail. And when they fail, it makes me really sad because they're, as I said, my customers aren't just the customers. So when you see someone jump all in, but then unfortunately they don't do all the aspects that they need to keep up with and they fail, it's just really sad.
Understandably. But I mean, it kind of sounds like, and not to say everything's avoidable, because there's just problems out there on the road. I mean, that's the
Exactly.
reality of this. I mean, this isn't a risk-free business.
Right.
It's just about mitigating your risk. It's about trying to make sure that you're protecting yourself as best as you can and trying to make sound business decisions. So, I get that. I mean, and it's good to hear that that doesn't happen very often, Carrie.
No, but it's sad when it does, for
Yeah.
sure. But like you said, you can't, you know what I mean? We don't have a crystal ball. If we did, we'd all be millionaires because we'd be winning the lottery.
Well, Carrie, I am so appreciative of your time. Thank you so much. It was great to get a perspective from someone that works in the F&I aspect of our business. Thank you so much for taking a little time with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. And anyone listening that's out there hustling in their trucks, I really appreciate everything that you're doing for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to do it for another episode of the Successful Driver Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you later.